the three things that we needed to learn were everything, and for the people that weren't here in the morning, is risk management is for this afternoon. That was our goals for risk management, and to learn more about the Nurse Practice Act. What if you reported to the board? But in the morning, we talked about civil and criminal and administrative sides of it. Start thinking globally and holistically like we do about nursing and about our APRN practice. Start thinking about the law that way. That everything, and the other reason, I don't want to get on the stump here, but the reason we got to get politically active is because it affects us. It affects us very much. This last election, if I've learned anything, it's been that we can lose all the rights we got in over 50 years in a second, right? We can lose all the turf we got and the civil rights and the APRN coincide. We're celebrating like 50 years. Last year we celebrated 50 years of being nurse practitioners. Started in Colorado. And then what? We give that up. We give up that turf. We give up our rights. So that's why being politically involved and going to talk to your representative about this, the things, the concerns you bring to me, bring to your representative and say, look, I'm concerned about this, you know. Mr. Green, great congressman up here, and there's plenty others up here in Houston, done a lot for the people. You could say, look, on the one side we got an epidemic, on the other side we're caught in the middle. And sometimes you become a part of the solution, you know, not the problem. And you think what the outcome. All right, let's just take a show of hands. How many vote for poor Pat? You know, I'm loading the question. How many vote for poor Pat to take a probated suspension? That means she's suspended, but if she does good for 3 years, she could still nurse and be an APRN. How many of you all would probate her license, meaning if you mess up in any way, we'll suspend you for that behavior? How many would give her probation, in other words? Okay, let's have the count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Dave in the back, 11, 12. Okay. How many think she should have her license suspended for a year? See, but we're biased. You know what I mean? Right. We're like, we feel. But if you weren't, okay, what if you were patients, you didn't know anything about APRNs? Who would you vote for suspension?
What are all the options?
Probation? Suspension? Revocation. I haven't taken the vote on revocation yet.
And this is just APRN.
APRN.
I have a question. All those 7,000 scripts, was it found out that they were hers or somebody else?
She denies them, but she had the duty to report. So you heard Beyonce. She didn't know if they were hers or not. And frankly, she doesn't remember.
But I have a question. Those patients, was there any record of them being seen in the clinic?
Okay, well, the thing is that a lot of these before 2014 could be call-ins, remember? And she got talked on the phone, I got sloppy. Okay, so remember all those things. We feel bad for her, right? Because we're putting ourselves in her position. Let's put ourselves in the patient's position. Let's put ourselves in a politician's position. In a district, now you all are prosecutors for the board. You all are the staff attorney. Would you, let's change it. With the evidence you have a job to take away and punish and protect the public. How many of you all would suspend as BON staff? You would revoke as staff because you are staff. That's your job. And you'd feel good about it, would you? Oh, yeah. I'd feel good about it. If I was the BON staff, I have a job to do. So I have a lot of pressure. And the more revocations I get, the more promotion I get too. Well, Sun Tzu, the general, Chinese general once said, if you hang one, you scare 10,000. Right? So you make an example of her. How many APRNs? Who's going to take care of the patient? The other 99.9% that are terrified. Right? And aren't going to take cash. Okay, but see, we can argue it both ways. What Can the defense do better? I don't know. I mean, I question myself every time I go to the board. Could I have done something better for my nurse? Could I have done this or that with the financials that I have? I'm going against a multi-million dollar budget, and we have $25,000 to throw at the problem. Could I have done better? Could I have done worse? I don't know. You know, you have to live with that as an attorney. Has the BON met its burden through Dr. Dre and Dr. Jay-Z? They think so. But I think they're biased. I think they're bought and paid for. But at the end of the day, they go by the standards. And we saw 217.11, 12. We saw the occupational code. It's so general and broad what unprofessional conduct is. It's like the Supreme Court said, what is pornography? And you know what they said? We'll know it when we see it. So a realistic resolution, the APRN must be at some point admit the responsibility of watching out for prescription fraud. Somewhere we have to take responsibility as APRNs, right? That's what the board feels. An APRN owns their own practice. But of course, as good lawyers, we offer mitigating evidence. We did letters and everything. Voluntary surrender for a year. Let's cut a deal if cornered, but asked to work as an RN LVN so she can feed her 10-year-old in order to safeguard the public while not throwing out the baby with the bathwater, right? Argue that pill mills and opioid epidemic terminology are a political and media frenzy. It's relatively new. For 2 decades, we were told this was acceptable, you know? And remember, once the Lord tab became Schedule 2, she did the minimum, at least, of what she was supposed to do, which is stop prescribing. How do we keep our practices safe? Well, we kind of, and what can we do to practice safely? Same question is, a lot of people are just not doing the DEA stuff. A lot of people are sending it to pain management. A lot of people are saying maybe, okay, if the doctor has the DEA, I'll defer to him and he does a one-time script and then pain management. Some people are doing that, but it has to be therapeutic. It has to be documented why you're giving that patient medication and what non-prescriptive therapeutic measures are we doing. Are we doing physical therapy? I mean, even the smallest towns got some physical therapy, you know. I'm sorry? It's expensive. Oh, good point. Ooh, good lawyer. I like that. What can we avoid going through Pat's ordeal? Well, we kind of really fleshed that out. What really happens to people in Pat APRN situation? Revocation for about a year, suspension of everything, at least they can reapply. Somebody like her probably fall within the guidelines. They'd have to give everything up for a year, reapply for the LVNRN, I get that back. In 3 years I apply for the APRN, but probably lose their prescriptive authority forever. She could do house call assessments after 3 years maybe, but at least there's hope. Probably I could get back pretty much 80% of what she had and restore her life in 3 to 5 years.
I wondered if anybody would even hire her with that on the record, you know, with that.
Well, you brought up a good point, is CMS gets a hold of it in the data bank and she's banned. As long as that's in effect, she's banned for participating. So she's pretty much 80% out of luck unless she's working for profit.
Can I ask a question though? You mentioned that pharmacists had tried to alert her. So don't you think though that there was, like, pharmacists, did they get turned in? Did any other professionals get involved? And then you said now the nurses have to be reported to the board for an error. If it's part of the pharmacist's responsibility in that error, are they also getting reported? Is the doctor getting reported for every little error?
Well, the doctor's in trouble here. He lawyered up, he rolled on her, saved himself. He's probably going to get hammered. In the real life situation that I based this on, the doctor gave it up in Texas and went to go practice in another state and was allowed.
And he was
Wow.
78.
Before he lost his license here, though.
No, he surrendered his license here.
Practice somewhere else at 78.
Yeah, that's true. I promise I'm not lying on that one. He went to go practice in his home state, and they let him back in.
That's all the time with the doctor.
See, but the pharmacist that was
Where's
still
the
in
food and then a lot of
in the clinic with her?
Huh?
Was the pharmacist in the clinic with her?
No, the pharmacists usually call if there's a pattern now. The pharmacists usually say, "Did you call in this script?" They're doing more vigilant now. Walgreens is, man, because Walgreens got hammered by DEA. So Walgreens is Walgreens is, let me tell you, they're like, man, you go over there, you need like to give your left kidney to score the Lord tab now, you know. Thumbprint, retinal recognition, you know. So, you know, we're going to be putting out, I have a little, and I have one that I have Nurses Matter on Facebook, and I post stuff, little things. Sometimes if you want me to put something on there, I just say it's not legal advice, but some people email me and say, hey, you know, can you talk about this thing or that? And Dave and I are going to do a little legal nurse consultant video series, and it'll even make you even more of a, you know, the nurse paralegal, legal nurse consultant without, you know, a lot of stuff. But, you know, and I always say lastly, like I said, the good news is very little chance you all will ever have to call me. Very little. I'm telling you, very little. You have a less, probably getting struck by lightning, probably, as APRNs. You have a better chance. But, or dying in a plane flight, you know, except that lecture over there, you know. I'm glad I missed it. I fly all the time. But I always tell people, take care of yourself, right? Because we take care of everybody, and then we take care of ourselves last, right? And so I do stuff like that. See? That's me on the bottom. That's me on the bottom. And that's me on the top. So I always tell everybody, thank you, and I'm very blessed to be able to be here with you guys and never give up, you see? So you always try to take care of yourself, and we take care of ourselves and love each other and take care of each other. And the best thing you can do is get a lawyer as a friend. All right.
Will you be my friend? Will you be my friend?
Yeah, look at that guy, man. Yeah, he looks like he ate the other guy, you know? You know?